Secretary of American Atheists. He's a national spokesman for American Atheists. The co-host and producer of the Atheist Unicorn Cable TV show that you can see in the book and product room. He's an incredible speaker for the club, I must tell you. There's just nobody like him who can analyze what's going on in America. We're big RonBarrier fan. I knew they were taste of it today. He's just a really great person to work with. He's been right there with us since the disappearance of the Mario years. And it's my pleasure to introduce a dear, dear colleague, RonBarrier.
Actually, I just think of you all as my friends. I'd like to thank you, Ellen, President of American Atheists, Board of Directors, the State Directors, members, families, guests, and friends. This is really an honor, and I think the first thing I'd like to do unofficially, because I haven't had permission to do it officially yet, is I'd like to declare the month of April, now and forever, as National Atheist Month. This was the fused Easter that's always held in there, just about all the time held in Easter. It gives us a month of rationality. And it's also the month that our founder of American Atheists was born. Back in January, American Atheists was in St. Louis, Missouri to pick at the Pope. And three wonderful things, of course, happened. First of all, he did show up. The second thing was that the Vatican issued new rules for exorcisms, written in Latin, of course, which now included exorcisms of demons from inanimate objects. I was thinking, do they mean a refrigerator or a microwave, or maybe they might be thinking the motor. The computer motor. Of course, the third thing that I found really outrageous was that the papers were crowing that we have now become the third largest Catholic nation in the world. Third largest Catholic nation in the world. Just think of who would have company with. Philippines, Mexico, Brazil, fine company. As far as ethics and intelligence. And Italy. Which, by the way, all four of those countries have ranked at the bottom of 10 in ethics as monitored by an organization called Transparency International, who monitors business ethics of the various countries. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a philosopher, I'm not an author, hell, I'm not even a college graduate. I'm just an average guy, just like you. I work with truckers, warehouse people, longshoremen. Just a simple man who happens to be an atheist and very proud of it. Of course, I used to be a Christian for that. I apologize. Looking back at what some of the other speakers have been talking about, Charles Serrano, especially the young people, and especially young people, I'm almost positive that at one point or another, when anyone discovers what I perceive to be such a profound and potentially life-altering self-realization that religion may be 50 at best, you really don't know where to turn to or who to talk to in order to explore these doubts and reservations. I have a niece myself who said to me, Uncle Ron, I can ask you questions without you looking at me like I have to read heads. And that's exactly the way we should be to our young people. I was a Christian for over 35 years with the usual periodic lapses, of course, in attendance and in credibility. But as I reached 40 years of age, I began to realize that I was attending church services and Bible studies for no apparent reason. Church services were becoming increasingly incomprehensible, and Bible studies I was just disrupting with rational questions, ultimately being rejected by the Bible group. In other words, it slowly dawned on me that I was what was typically classified as an unbeliever. Now, from a Christian standpoint, from a person who was a Christian, being an unbeliever is synonymous, of course, with being a heretic, and that spells trouble. In Catholic elementary school, I was indoctrinated to avoid unbelievers, Jews, Protestants. Of course, Muslims weren't on the political radar screen in the 50s, and of course, atheists were communists. That as far as Muslim was just a type of cloth. But my cousins were Protestant, and I had good friends who were Jewish. And it was a question of loyalty either to the paranoid fantasies of nuns and clerics, or respect and honor with my families and friends. And even from a young man of 8 years old, I was told, even for a man of 8 years old at the time, to me it was a no-brainer. From then on, I began to cast that skeptical eye at religion, both its institutions, its clergy, and its doctrines. Then there was C-SPAN in 1993. We all know what C-SPAN is. While channel surfing, I locked on a C-SPAN, and all of a sudden, they said they were going to have a speaker at an American Atheists Convention. And it was there, through C-SPAN and Brian Lennon, that I was introduced to Madeline Murray. Well, listening to the speech here was something that I could grab onto. This wasn't some sort of misty fog that I had to submit myself to, but actually something you could really grab onto, and that was your intellect. Her discussion of atheism in American society at that speech was so accurate and so right on that it was actually the first time that I identified with the word atheist in a positive, reaffirming manner. And after listening to her speech, I realized two things. Number one, there were obviously others out there who felt the way I did. And Charles, I don't mean to say it, but I don't want anybody here to think the way I do, because if we all think alike, we might as well start a church. The fact is, our disagreement and our diversity is our strength. The second thing is that I made a major shift in priorities in my life, and that was my freedom to think and reason became more of a precious commodity than saving my imaginary soul. And then we, of course, save it from what? If I have, and you have, what is called the soul, and to me what that means is just really the sum and substance of who we are that makes us each individual. Not immortal, not disembodied, not transparent, but just simply who we are. Then that is what I had to protect from fear and ignorance. That was the only thing I had to save my soul from. And of course, speaking of soul and immortality, here's a little question next time someone asks you about immortality. If a Christian talks to you about immortality, ask them, how come immortality only begins when we're born? Then you watch the jaw drop and the eyes glaze over. Because if they're so sure that they're going to retain enough of their personality in an afterlife to be self-conscious of the fact that they are in fact in an afterlife, then how come we have no recollection of a pre-birth existence? How can immortality consist of a hereafter when there is no evidence that there was ever a before here? So of course, once immortality has a beginning, it's no longer immortal. So as the last vestiges of the religious infection started to miraculously dissipate in the light of reason, I discovered some very disturbing information. The same disturbing information that our young people today will encounter if they don't have loving, caring parents who want to teach them how to think. What any young person would do, I did. I went to the dictionary. I looked up atheist. I'm a big, giant Pumpkin Wagnall's Comprehensive International Dictionary of the English Language and Grammar. I looked up atheism, and it said belief that there is no God. This belief in the existence of God, godlessness in life or conduct. Well, immediately to me that was suspect because the dictionary was saying, well, there is a God. There's not. And you're just one of those people that don't know it. Atheistic. If I did things atheistically, what was that? article pertaining to atheism. Why atheists? Given to atheism, godless. There's that word again. So I look up godless. Ungodly, atheistical, wicked. See your synonyms under profane. Well, let's go. What's a profane? Look under the synonyms. And this is something that any 5, 10-year-old will do, and this is what they're going to encounter. To treat something with irreverence or abuse, to desecrate, to pollute, unconsecrated, ungodly, unhallowed, unholy, unsanctified, wicked, worldly, irreligious, sacrilegious, secular, temporal. Why would anybody want to be an atheist after traveling down that road? But we didn't stop there. Of course, our good friends at the Roman Catholic Church, who put out their catechism that almost no Catholic has. I know for support there's false advertising in here because they say it's the catechism of the Catholic Church, and it's not. It's unique to the Roman Church. The Greek Orthodox Church doesn't have this. The Russian Orthodox Church doesn't have this. Well, what do they say? What do my old buddies and old teachers have to say about me now? Well, it's quite simple. It says an atheist, in section 2123, that atheism must be regarded as one of the most serious problems of our times. This is 1997. What does the man have to say? Let me see what the man had to say. And of course, 14 Psalms 14:1. The fool hath said in his heart, there is no God. They are corrupt. They have done abominable works. There is none that doeth good. Christians are right when they are hostile to atheists. I mean, why? Well, because they're instructed to. They can't think on their own. They can't understand you as a person and who you are or what you accomplish or what you do. They're told to hate you. In every instance, in every case you hear that atheism is a negative position. When believers encounter an atheist, they avert their eyes. They speak in hushed tones. And they imagine all sorts of horrible deeds that were probably planned to unleash on an unsuspecting public. Believers understand atheism in as much the same way that giraffes understand VCRs. But every argument I have read that has been developed against atheism has been developed by atheists. Of course, they have vested interest in doing that. But unfortunately, they have also convinced some other atheists that their position is negative. Now, the one question that bothers me about religious people is how can one possibly understand atheism while intellectually existing in a world of demons, gods, angels, and whatever? I mean, you would obviously have to get rid of that first to understand where we are at. It's impossible for me for a person who is completely soaked in otherworldly visions and voices and instructions to even begin how to comprehend how reality is actually unfolding in front of us. And not only that, some, if many, clergymen have even denied that atheists don't exist. Of course, if we don't, why are they writing books about it? Well, they write books about other things that don't exist too, don't they? So meanwhile, of course, we're left to wonder if we really care. How can we exist when those in the know say we don't? You've heard the arguments. There are no atheists in foxholes. You're a believer, but you don't know it. Where did they come from? Which always bothers me, that particular question, because if they have to retreat, what am I going to tell them to change their mind? Why are you even wasting it till I ask them? Where do you get your moral?